it all happened already. It is underway. And everybody's waiting for that. All the assets are down 90%. It can't happen. It simply can't happen because it all happened in 2008. In 2008, the world stopped. The whole debt system blew up. We had to have a debt jubilee of resetting all government debts around the world at zero so we could afford to service it. We've kept rates low. We've been then using the balance sheet of all of the central banks just to pay the interest on the debt from the previous cycles. This is this everything code thesis that you and I have talked about. So we are paying the debts by printing money, pure debasement. The system broke in 2008. We then changed the financial system with the Basel III agreements, which forced the banks to lend less and to hold more treasuries. Why? There's going to be a lot of supply of treasuries. The whole system, everybody's aware that it's broken. It broke. So what is going on now? Well, for it to actually broke, the down 90%, it's all going to be 1929 again. Can't you just see it? You're missing the point. They're debasing the currency by 15% a year. It adds up to a staggering loss of wealth. It is a tax that you don't see. 15% a year debasement is easier than increasing your tax rate 15%, which is politically unacceptable, which is what they need to do to pay the debt, because the printing of money just debases the currency. So you are paying it. We are all paying it. For me, simply, if people stop using the network, if there's less activity on the network, people start becoming disinterested, then it's shown that its store of value principles erode. It would be the same with gold. And that's one of the reasons gold has been somewhat lackluster, because there's been less adopters of gold in a new digital world. So it's not done as well as it would have done historically in the kind of debasement environment that we've had. So if I were to observe in Bitcoin itself, forget all the other crypto, and I'm no Bitcoin maximalist, as you all know, if we saw that people were using it less, there was less activity, less value was being transacted, less new people were joining, the Bitcoin network, i.e. having wallets, then I would say, you know what, there's something wrong here. And is that persistent over time? If it's persistent over time, then the network may not work. And we've seen many of those things happen in the past. There's a possibility that happens. I don't think it's the highest probability, certainly not this decade. Could it happen after that? Of course possible.
Now, why don't you worry about that during the bear markets?
Because, so for example, in 2022 was a great example, is the market went down 75%. The number of active wallets in crypto went up 42%. So adoption was still ongoing while price went down. Activity was less. But then we're seeing, okay, so if we step back and we hear, oh, governments are going to build on blockchain rails, CBDCs. All the banks want to put assets on blockchain rails. We're hearing gaming companies want to put these metaverse gaming experiences on blockchain rails. We're hearing, I was at one of the world's largest commodity trading firms in Switzerland last week, speaking to one of their senior agricultural commodities physical traders. And I'm like, and she's an investor in my digital asset management company. And I'm like, are you guys using blockchain? Surely you should be solving supply chain. She goes, oh, we've been using blockchain since 2021. So we're doing 8, I think, of the world's largest agricultural commodities houses are putting their letters of credit, their shipping, their all of the kind of transit proofs, the supply chain, and the settlement all on blockchain. So going back to your question, Tom, when I see this and I see the price of Bitcoin down 75% or the whole crypto space down 80%, you say, I have to ask myself, is adoption stopping? Or is just this a cyclical factor that's driven by the business cycle? And until I would see otherwise, unless these things go away, then I can only assume that tomorrow is more digital than today. And tomorrow, more people will use blockchain technology than they did yesterday. As simple as that. I don't suggest, there's a lot of my videos, and you've seen them, where I talk about life, the value of lifestyle and other things, right? So the value of a home, owning a home. So I'm not saying that those things don't matter. They do. That gives you the foundational layer of which to take more risk and then do these things. Another thing I just want to touch on is, when you say I'm involved in meme culture, I've learned this bell curve, which is the mid-twit bell curve, which is like, if you can explain, the person who comes into a space kind of like number goes up. That's how they think of it, right? Bitcoin, number goes up. Then there's a whole group of people in the middle, the mid-twits, and they're arguing about every aspect of it, whether over-arguing in its favor or over-arguing against it. And then there's a person to the right side of the bell curve. Gold has exactly the same, right? There's a lot of people who've done a tremendous amount of work on gold and will just say, well, over time, gold's a good investment. I get that. Memes help you distill something down to its simplest essence. And if you don't understand something properly, you can't get it down to simplicity. So I talk about memetics, not also in terms of meme. That's kind of fun. But if you've read the book Sapiens, you'll understand that it is the language of humans. It is the basis of everything. Government, religion, community, law, the legal system, everything is based on storytelling. That's the one thing humans have over other animals. And we've created an entire civilization based on storytelling. Gold is part of storytelling. Everything is storytelling. So we can make it as complicated as we can, or we can understand that there's some memetics to it. And that's why I kind of use that term interchangeably, but it actually is a much deeper level. It's how humans do things. I mean, the other thing that's very important in this whole space, and I think something you and I have talked about, is everything in human society is contractual. Some are verbal, some are written, some are by purpose. And if you understand that all of everything we do, like me turning up today, was a contract. Now, it wasn't a contract for money or anything. It was like, I agree to come on with you and Peter. These things are really interesting because this is also part of what blockchain is doing within these things. So we need to understand the deeper elements of society and why this matters at a larger scale. So there's a lot behind all of this. So it's not just a network adoption. It's like, these are the elements of humanity. Much like gold has been an element of humanity in many ways, because it's lasted when we needed things to last. We didn't store things very well, if you remember. I won't get into the personal elements, because again, there's no reason to be personal about Michael and his position he holds within the community. He took a very brave bet. He saw something. I think I was the second person ever to interview him. He saw something that nobody else in the corporate had seen. And look, let's face it, MicroStrategies was a kind of going nowhere business. And he saw a way out. It was sitting on cash and he was worried about his cash, as we've all been. And he decided to put some of his cash into an asset. And that proved out to be really good. It was a risky bet, and it worked. And then he thought about, well, why don't I just use my company to accumulate as much of this asset as possible? No issue with that. There's been several people in commodity world who've done very similar things. It's a great strategy. He took more risk than I probably would have done. I don't really like leverage with a volatility of like that, but it paid off. It could have gone wrong. I know that there was a relative layer of comfort, but in a market like crypto, you don't really know. So he took a very brave bet with a corporate balance sheet, and the shareholders came along with him for a ride for the reason Peter said, because it became a proxy to something. in the end, does he turn it into something more, which is now he's talking about? Can he turn it into a whole kind of Bitcoin technology business? Okay, that's interesting. That's another call option on top. Because if not, it's just a Bitcoin holding company and there's an ETF. But if he now says, hey, I'm going to do what Jack Dorsey's trying to do and start using building technology around Bitcoin to solve many of the problems that we see in the world today, good on him. If he can do that, great. And if he can still keep adding Bitcoin to the balance sheet, no different than if we found somebody who was a gold miner or had a company and they bought gold. If Michael Saylor had bought gold, Peter would love him. And he'd done the same thing with his balance sheet. So look, he took a macro bet and he did a bloody good job of it. It was risky. I probably wouldn't have done it myself because of the leverage, but it worked. So, and if he can now build something on top of this, then he's taken a ex-growth tech services company and turned it to something very interesting. So he deserves plaudits for that.
Thank you for joining us today on this insightful journey into the world of crypto and investing. If you found value in today's discussion and want to stay updated on future crypto news and market insights, don't forget to hit subscribe button below and click the notification bell. By subscribing, you'll be part of our growing community, gaining exclusive access to timely analyses and strategies. I look forward to having you with us in the next video.